Hi, this is Brian Oliva from Getsemani Music. Today we're going to take a look at the 2022 reissue of the Moog Model D and compare its features with that of the original and see if the newest reissues are possibly even better than the original from the 1970s, a technology that's now over 50 years old. First, let's talk about what hasn't changed. The analog signal path that made the Model D famous is still the same. All the controls that were there in the 70s are still there, and basically the functionality is identical. The sound's the same. I mean, everything, that you knew and loved from the 1970s original Model D is still available. What they've added is some new features that make it a little easier to use, perhaps, and just a little more compatible with today's technology. One example, the V-trigger, in and out, now use quarter-inch standard jacks, and basically standard V-trigger cables. The original Model D had S-triggers with Cinch-Jones hardware, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, would be pretty tough to find these days. So they've made it a little more compatible with what's available, and that's always a plus. The other thing they've done is added some new features. The original Model D, if you wanted modulation, you had to sacrifice oscillator 3 to do so. What they've done now is, if you want to use it the way you used to with oscillator 3, you still can. But they've also added another LFO so that you can still retain use of all three oscillators for sound and still have an LFO to modulate using the mod wheel and whatever. So that's basically a bonus. Most of the other features that are on the new ones were introduced in 2016 with the original reissue. One thing that is new in 2022 is that the pitch wheel is now spring-loaded and will automatically return to center, something that no previous edition has ever done. So if you're used to using conventional pitch wheels, now you can just let it go and it'll go back to neutral, and you can continue, and you don't have to remember to ease it into the middle position to get things back to normal. Other things that were introduced in 2016 that are still there, there's new inputs and outputs. As far as inputs are concerned, there's now inputs for loudness, for the filters, for the oscillators, the mod source, and of course the V-trigger. As far as outputs, there are now outputs to control aftertouch or after pressure as it's labeled, pitch, V-trigger, and velocity. That allows you to do a few new things that weren't possible before, and we'll try to show you some of those in a few minutes. Also still included are MIDI in, out, and through ports for MIDI connectivity. The Model D can receive MIDI notes, velocity, and pitch bend information, and now includes mod wheel MIDI support, CC number 1 for MSB or most significant byte, and CC 33 for LSB or least significant byte. And MIDI out, it can send MIDI notes, velocity, and pitch bend information, and the mod wheel information, as well as aftertouch. Also continuing from and different from the original is that the power supply is no longer internal. It's a standard external unit now with the power supply in the middle, standard outlets. It's not really a wall wart. It doesn't take up extra room at the outlet. It's a pretty good size unit, and it's no longer internal, so it does two things. One, it makes it universally compatible for anywhere from 100 to 240 volts, and it's real easy to swap out the cord for US or Europe or wherever else it's being used, and it'll make the unit itself just a little bit lighter, and it also gets another heat source away from the oscillator, so it should help it stay in tune a little better. So all in all, it's a better design. That's it for the summary. I guess we'll just stop now and just start playing with it and show you some of the features and how they actually work. Another popular trick on the original MiniMoog was to plug a TRS cable into the headphone out and into the instrument in, which allowed you to overload the filter, thus making some interesting sounds. With the reissues, Moog has made it easy. Now you don't need a cable. As long as nothing's plugged into the instrument in jack, the connection's made internally automatically. Previously we talked about some of the new inputs. So we're going to try controlling volume with velocity and controlling the filter with aftertouch. So we're plugging cables in from the velocity input to loudness output and from after pressure in to filter out. And we'll wrap things up by just doing a couple little jams utilizing all of the new features in action.